Thank you, Mrs. Atusaki. We start with the first session of the conference, and we are talking about vessels performance. I call to the stage Mr. Aristos Philis, CEO of Keelx. His speech is entitled, A Cost-Benefit Analysis of Vessel Performance SaaS. Mr. Philis. Before you start, please, Mr. Philis, may I ask you something? Sure. What is the actual benefit for a ship owner in investing in a SaaS? The stage is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Kalimera. Thanks for the question. Actually, that question is the reason I'm doing this presentation today. Is because I'm fortunate enough to be on both sides, on the ship owning side and on the technology provider one. And that's a question I get asked a lot from ship owners and ship managers, why we should invest in software as a service. And because I've noticed many times that the perception is mostly a software will just help me minimize costs or perhaps optimize a voyage. That's not true. There's a lot more into that, and that's why I picked this topic today. Given the theme of the forum and the audience attending, I thought it was a perfect opportunity to address this in a little bit more detail. So, again, good morning, and Albany, thanks for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to address this audience. As mentioned, I picked this topic because I noticed many times that it gets asked frequently. This question, I get asked personally this question frequently, so it was a perfect opportunity. But obviously, doing a cost-benefit analysis of vessel performance software as a service in 15 minutes, it's a very complex task. So my idea today is just to provide a little bit of an insight on the major groups of benefits that we identify. And at the end of the day, the decision whether these benefits outweigh the associated costs is entirely up to the end user. I'll just provide our own point of view. This is how it works, okay. So this is my agenda. Just for the sake of introduction, allow me to say a couple of words about where I come from. As mentioned, I'm the CEO of Keelx. Keelx is a technology spin-off from Lemisolar, which is a ship owning group. We're fully focused on maritime digital technologies. Three of our main products are Keelx Analytics, Education, and Talk. Talk is just a messenger application for seafarers to connect to the ship management office, either anonymously or with their name. Keelx Education produces e-courses on the safe handling and transportation of dry bulk cargoes. And Keelx Analytics, it's a web-based software as a service for vessel performance monitoring. So to our topic. So first of all, in order to be able to do a cost-benefit analysis, we first have to identify these benefits. And what we did basically, we tried to look at all different types of benefits. When I say types, I mean direct ones, such as reducing in cost or improving efficiency in operations. Second one is indirect benefits, such as perhaps an increased interest from your clientele just because now you're more technology-oriented. The third one is the intangible ones, and this includes things such as the increased employee and stakeholder morale, just because now you're utilizing, again, more advanced technologies. The fourth type is something like competitive advantages. Perhaps because your ship owning company is utilizing technology, you might be considered as a first mover or be a preferred employer, perhaps, for some people. And on the same philosophy, on the cost side, we again looked at direct costs, such as subscriptions for software as a service, indirect costs, such as anything related to support the use of software as a service, such as cloud services or rent, perhaps. Intangible costs, such as the temporary decrease in productivity that your team might encounter while you're rolling out these products. And the fourth category is opportunity costs, such as the potential benefit lost just by utilizing one solution and not another one. So with these in mind, we combined our feedback from, first of all, our own point of view as both ship owners and technology providers, plus some feedback we received from existing and potential clients when we discussed with them. And we also analyzed a lot of user stories, and we concluded to these major 6 groups of benefits of vessel performance software as a service. I'll start from the top right side of this donut chart. The first one, of course, is performance optimization, and this mostly has to do with data-driven decision making or optimizing voyages, or perhaps maintaining your equipment using predictive maintenance, or even using data to prevent commercial claims. The second category, which is one of the most hot topics today in our point of view, is the capability of software as a service in assisting ship-owning companies in their regulatory reporting and compliance. And that's because software as a service can assist shipping companies with the regulatory maintenance, with the reporting and emissions, with their emissions management, with their emissions reduction, and their emissions reporting. The third major group is the power of software as a service in differentiating ship owners. As I mentioned earlier, this is more like a competitive advantage. And considering that today we are dealing with an exponentially growing amount of data, is becoming a necessity, in my opinion, to use software as a service. So the first movers will have a relative advantage. And as I mentioned before, they might even be considered preferred employers in positions such as data science, that, to be honest, today it's kind of a major pain point in our industry. The fourth major category is the ease with which software as a service can help in transparency, stakeholder engagement, and stakeholder satisfaction. Again, this is not a very obvious benefit from day one, but as a matter of fact, the adaptability and the modularity of software as a service, they can allow for the correct information to flow seamlessly to the correct receivers, and this helps in transparency, in satisfaction, and data security. The fifth major category, which for me, again, it's one of the major top two, it's the interoperability of software as a service. And what I mean with this one is their ability to exchange information from one system to another. And I'll give you an example. By utilizing APIs, for example, imagine that you are a ship-owning company, you are retrieving automatically through an API information from the ERP system of your ship manager, and then through another API, you are sending the emissions report to the verifier for verification. This is a very, very powerful combination, and in my point of view, it's one of the major benefits of software as a service. And I'll give you another example. The combination of data encryption and APIs gives rise to the concept of federated learning. And what I mean by this one, as an example, imagine that today you are using a software as a service to optimize a voyage. You are perhaps benefiting, most likely actually, benefiting from data that has been collected and encrypted by a bunch of other ships of similar size and similar operations. And in the same way that you're benefiting from this, your data after your voyage will be encrypted and then added back into the pool, and you will help in this collective effort of improving shipping. This can happen with encryption. Moving to the last and sixth category is that software as a service can actually enable funding opportunities. They give you access to opportunities that you perhaps didn't have before. Again, this is not a very obvious benefit from day one. You need to get into it, start working on it, and then you realize that you have actually unlocked new sources of funding. And as an example, there's a bunch of Horizon Europe programs that perhaps before you wouldn't qualify, but today, by utilizing this software, and because you have the relevant teams supporting them, you're actually qualifying for a lot of subsidies and funds from Europe. And at the same time, this use of software as a service may help you attract a completely different investor base that perhaps before was not even looking into shipping, and now because you're more tech-driven, and they are also tech-driven, they may look at you in a different way. So now, in terms of assigning a score to these categories of benefits, a quantitative and qualitative measurement, we decided to look at mainly two things, their impact and the gestation, and I explain what I mean by both of them. And using this one, you can later decide whether the benefits actually outweigh the costs. By impact, I obviously mean the impact on the business by utilizing the software to make you more competitive, reduce costs, etc. And gestation is how long it takes for this software to produce results. So if something is slow, it will get a lower score, like red. But at the same time, we thought it was a good idea to add in the same scorecard the perception. And what I mean by perception is the perception of ship owners before they start using the software as a service. And by the way, what I mean by perception, if it's perceived highly, it will be green. If it's a low perception, it will be red. And unfortunately, in the interest of time, I don't have the luxury to go through all of them one by one. I'll share the presentation with you so you can have a deeper look. But a couple of points that I will pick from this scorecard is that many times perception is mostly aligned with gestation and not so much with impact. So if something might take a while to produce a result, it might not help it to be highly perceived from the beginning. And another major pain point that I see which stand out is that there are two main categories, the regulatory compliance and environmental responsibility, as well as the integration, versatility, and knowledge accessibility, which are the two that stand out, that are very high in perception, very high at impact, and they can produce results from day one. So now, in terms of looking at the return on the investment, we tried to plot a couple of different scenarios of investing in a software as a service versus the relevant costs through time. And we mainly focus on three very simple scenarios. The first one is utilizing a software as a service alone. The second one is combining a software as a service with Internet of Things. And what I mean by that is like sensors, data loggers on board to collect high-frequency data. And the third scenario is not investing in anything, but still trying through a manual analysis of data to get something out of it to optimize your operations. So to compare this to a cost, I'm giving you some bullets there on cost considerations. I'm assuming about $400 per month for a software as a service, while for the second scenario, which is a software as a service plus Internet of Things, it's the same subscription plus perhaps something like $20,000 per vessel initial capex to get this up and running. And the summary of this analysis is that looking at it at the software as a service alone, it's something that can actually break even within 6 months normally. While if you're, and then after the 6 months, the benefits will outweigh the cost quite significantly, but obviously with a reducing rate. In the second scenario, where you combine software as a service with Internet of Things, there's a major kick at the beginning of 20,000 plus on day one, and it will take approximately a little over than 2 years to break even. However, this break-even point can vary significantly because just with one voyage optimization, you might save significantly and bring this break-even point much earlier. Then it will outweigh, of course, the investment of SaaS alone, but again, at a reducing rate. And the third scenario, which is also quite interesting, is not investing in anything and trying to utilize data manually to do some analysis. This might return a little bit at the beginning, but after a point when you're dealing with an enlarged data set, it will actually turn negative because it will be impossible to maintain the quality. So, to wrap up, I would like you to keep in mind a couple of major not pain points, a couple of main points. The first one is, as I mentioned before, there are lots of benefits, but to be honest, many of them are not obvious. And what we noticed after the utilization of software as a service is that most of the respondents of the people we spoke to agree that the major 2 points that stand out in terms of using software as a service is their interoperability, which means integrations with APIs, with other systems. And the second one is their assistance in regulatory compliance and emissions management and reporting. These are the top 2 categories. A second point, which is quite interesting again, is that since EU ETS was launched in January, and a little bit actually before that, I would say since December, if 1 out of 5 people we're speaking to were interested in looking in a software as a service, we have actually noticed in just less than 3 months a 300% increase in interest. Now, maybe 4 out of 5 companies are more actively engaged and looking into investing in a software as a service. The third point, which I mentioned before and I'm repeating now, is that many times the perception of a software as a service or its features is more related to the gestation period and not so much to the impact. So if something needs a lot of effort from someone to convince that it's actually beneficial, it's not so much because it's not impactful, but because it might take a little bit of time to produce results. And lastly is, in my opinion, software as a service in vessel performance are here to stay. But the right choice, if you're going to combine it with the Internet of Things or not, and how you're going to utilize them, it always depends on the end user and the company's strategy. So this is just our own point of view to shed a little bit more light on the benefits. That is not just the obvious ones and the direct ones. There's a broader range of things that you can benefit from utilizing them. I believe they're here to stay, and the choice, it's on the end user. If you like a copy of the presentation, feel free to scan this QR code. You will have your own digital version. And thank you very much.